Howdy y'all, Christi with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am here today with another weekly update, and it is about 20 degrees cooler than it was last week when I shot last week's weekly update. And there have been a few changes going on, so let's go see what's happening. Okay, we are going to start over here in the pepper patch. Before I get too far in there, we had a storm blow through and it rained for a few hours last night. So if you see stuff kind of beaten down and knocked over like that's why. It's because of the weather that we had. But let's go take a look starting in this bed. So previously this housed my Cayenne family, and then like some super hots, and then these tiny little red guys here. I removed the Carolina Reaper and the habanero plants out of here. There wasn't anything wrong with them. They were just so productive that I don't have a way to utilize all that they produced in a way that makes sense for our family, because my husband's the only one that eats them. So I went ahead and I cut them down to make room for fall and winter gardening. And then you can see these Buena Mulatas. They're still here hanging out, but they really need to be harvested quite heavily. You can see a ton of peppers that are pretty much ready. So I need to get out here with my bucket, do some harvesting. These will be dehydrated and crushed completely to be used as cayenne powder, essentially. I have a ton of crushed red pepper already, so that is what these will turn into. And then after I get these all harvested, I'll probably cut these plants down as well, because in a few weeks some brassicas will need to be transplanted in here. Now if you're looking and you see a ton of labels, I did do some planting the other day, starting with the early purple sprouting broccoli. That is a type that likes to be direct sown compared to transplanted, and it does require the cold winter temperatures in order to produce the broccoli in the spring. So that's what we have here. And then we have radishes kind of the rest of the way down this part of the bed, and then we have rutabagas here, and then we have turnips here. There's also some squash plants. So there's a lot going on in this bed right now. The radishes that are on this end are going to be relatively quick producing, you know, typically within 30 days of them germinating, they're ready to come out. So I'm not too concerned about those overcrowding this green zebra zucchini. These radishes take a little while longer, particularly the daikon and the masato rose. So I didn't plant as many of those. They're not planted as densely as these. So hopefully things work out okay with all of the squash that's growing. So that is a partial eclipse. And then another green zebra. The brassicas, when they are transplanted in, will go along the back and then along the front, being very careful of the rutabagas and turnips. This plant I'm going to leave until the first frost, because my husband likes to eat the peppers fresh, all these little red guys. So I want to make sure he has them for as long as possible. All right, and then on to this bed. I haven't planted anything new in here. I did remove some of the really large basil plants that were kind of along here. I'm trying to just clear out some space to get ready for root vegetables to be planted, and then brassicas to be transplanted in as well. But looky here, we finally have a spark mini pumpkin that is growing. I'm very excited. I don't know if I'll have any by Halloween, but hopefully I'll have some, you know, before the first frost comes, and I can have them as sort of like a harvest type decoration. So I'm really excited about that. And then down here we have the mandarin mini pumpkins as well. At least I think they're mini pumpkins. We'll see. The jalapenos that are along here are all doing really excellent. The pumpkin spice here and the lemon spice here. I harvested about a dozen ripe peppers off of yesterday. There is an orange spice in between the two that's not doing nearly as well. It never really got a whole lot of height on it, but you can see there's still a ton of peppers growing on here. And then this is the brown jalapeno, and then we have Jedi here, then we have Pantera, then we have early jalapeno here. So lots of jalapenos. You can see lots of young little fruits there. So hopefully I'll have enough to make some pickles with soon, because I haven't been able to do that yet this season. Some pickled jalapenos, I mean. All right, this bed is kind of chaotic. It has cowpeas and eggplant, and it has some other random miscellaneous plants in it. We have some zinnias here that are doing really lovely. This variety of cowpea is called Blue Goose, and these seeds were planted later than those down there, so they're just starting to bloom and create some peas. So hopefully next week or so we'll be harvesting off of these plants, but we are harvesting off of the rest of them. I harvested quite a few yesterday. I will try to insert a picture of yesterday's harvest because it was mostly peas. Here's one that's ready right here. It has kind of like a papery feel on the pod, and it's starting to dry out pretty well. So I'll harvest this one whenever I come out and do the rest of my harvest, go inside and shell it, and then once it's completely dried out, I will get it dehydrated. Get it put into a jar for storage. On these eggplants up here, I harvested 4 the other day. I'm going to insert a picture of that too, because I just took a picture of it. It was way too hot to be trying to film stuff out here yesterday and the day before. And you can see there's quite a few more. So the ones that I harvested, I'm going to turn into baba ganoush, and we'll see what the next round of harvests will turn into. But I'm really excited that there's so many that are currently growing. And because of all the rain that we got, this is looking super green and super happy. It's been pretty hot the last couple of weeks, so everything was looking a little bit defeated, but the cooler temperatures and the rain really perked everything up. Makes me very happy. Right, over on this side, it is very wild and chaotic. I still need to do quite a bit of cleanup. I kind of just have to do it as I have room in my trash can, since I don't compost here to keep the rodent situation from happening. So what I have going on is, of course, okra. So we have okra. We have pink-eyed purple hull cowpeas in this bed. And then we have lots of basil that I need to come through and start cutting down. There are no peppers left in this bed. The last bell pepper I went ahead and cut out. It got sick or something and was dying anyway, so I just cut it out and disposed of it. We still have the hamey melon that's growing right along. Let's see. This is really super duper long. There we go. I need to come kind of wrap that a little bit better, but getting it off of the okra, I don't want it climbing through my okra. But the hamey melon still has quite a few on it. This one will be ready within a few days, I think. And then there's 2 on the ground there. And then I saw another baby one here whenever I was stringing up the vine. The Thai noodle beans, they're starting to bloom out pretty good again, and I see lots of baby beans. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a good run for the fall so that we can have lots of stir fry again. It's kind of my go-to easy, quick weeknight meal, and with the kids busy in sports and scouts and all the things, it's nice to have those quick meals. Here we go. Pink eye purple hull cowpea. This one's almost ready. Whenever it is ready, all of this green will be red, and then you can harvest it and shell it or whatever. I don't think that there's any that are ready. I harvested yesterday, so we'll see. But there is, you can see okra blooms here. There's some pods that are ready to be harvested. It gets quite comical trying to harvest back there because they're trees basically, and I have to like weave my way through and around to get to all the different little okra pods there, but I like it. Moving on to this bed. It is also quite chaotic, but it is also really lush. All of this basil really makes the bed look really filled in. We have a Kajari melon here. This one looks almost ready. I'm gonna set it kind of on that. The last one fell off of the vine, and I'm hoping that one doesn't. I might have to keep a really close eye on it. But there's another one here, and maybe that's all for right now. I'm not entirely sure. We have Hostinator cucumber. The vine is still putting on a relative amount of length, so I might be able to start weaving that through soon. And then this bed has the phenomenal variety of cowpeas. That is their name. There's a few that are ready here. I harvested several out of here yesterday, so these are still not quite ready. This one is ready. That one's ready. This has the black bear pumpkins, mini pumpkins, and then this white icicle radish is ready to come out. It has completely dried out at this point, so all of these seed pods can be opened up and the seeds collected and saved. We have some mushrooms from the compost. More okra along the back, so pretty cool. The plan for this bed and that one is to get rid of the front basil in both beds, and then the basil that's along the back in both beds. Trying to clear up some space for brassicas like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and then root vegetables. I still have carrots and beets that are going to be planted, more rounds of rutabagas, turnips, and radishes. So I really need to start clearing lots of space out of these beds to make room for those. And let me come back over here because I forgot to mention, finally have cucumbers. This is the Chicago pickling variety. At the other end, it's the Hostinator variety. It has not germinated yet, but I'm hopeful that with all the rain, it will germinate. This is also going to house the leafy greens, not lettuce, but kale, collard greens, and spinach. Luckily, some of those I can just kind of tuck between plants. This kind of end is relatively open. There are some pretty empty spots here where I can just start tucking plants. I didn't plant as much collard greens and kale this year as I did last year, so I planted like half the amount because it was way too much for us last year. So I think I'll be able to fit everything in here with no problem. Moving on to the sunflower patch. This makes me very happy because we finally have sunflowers that are opening. They're all yellow, but I am totally happy with that because they're so very cheery. So we have Sunspot Dwarf, I'm pretty sure, and this is the Sun King Double. It's not all the way open, but it has a ton of petals and it looks really cool. Lemon Queen, I think. This one is not open yet, so I'm not sure what variety it's going to be. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we do have a few that are open, so very happy. Once the sunflowers are done, I will cut them down, get these spaces amended, and with some compost, some cow manure, and some bone meal. Get it ready for garlic. I have ordered all my seed garlic for the year. And then garlic will also be planted in front of the greenhouse here in those 2 grow bags. And then the quad that is over here underneath the trellis. And I'm just going to repeat what I did last year. Grow the garlic once it's harvested, then sunflowers will be planted. It worked out pretty well. Sunflowers also help filter the icky stuff out of the soil, if there is anything. I try to be pretty organic with my gardening, so I doubt there's any sort of contaminants, but just in case. And then I just like the sunflowers because they make me happy. Right, into the flower bed now. I haven't planted anything new in here. The stuff that's in here is just kind of chugging along, growing, doing what it's supposed to do. The salvia is so wild, but we have some big fat bumblebees that love it. And then of course the hummingbird that comes through, that really loves it. So even though it drives me a little crazy with how wild it is, I'm leaving it for the wildlife. We have some bush beans that I planted all the way down, mostly to help get some more nitrogen deposited into the soil. If I get food from the bean plants, then that's a bonus, but that wasn't my intention for growing the beans here. I also have some Tulsi holy basil and some celosia. I believe this is dragon's breath on the variety. The Tulsi I put in here as just like a leafy element. The celosia will put off flower spikes. These will be like a bright pink. And then I still have Rudbeckia. It is starting to die off. I pruned some of the plants yesterday, and I think they're kind of reaching the end of their life cycle, so that's okay. They have been beautiful all summer long. Moving down here, this is a snapdragon patch. I didn't really get a whole lot of flowers from it, but it did kind of fill in this space pretty nicely with all of the greenery. So that's really nice. There is echinacea on the back there, and then we have a hollyhock. I'm not sure which varieties of either of those are. I'm terrible at labeling the things in the flower bed. And then we have some strawberry fields gomphrena. This was doing really well whenever it was super hot, and I looked at the weather and we're not cracking out of the 80s for at least the next 10 days. So I'm not entirely sure if this is going to continue to be productive or not. It's kind of wild. Like this is one plant. It's silly. This is silly. I don't even know I don't know how to contain this. This is crazy. Anyway, I don't know if it's going to continue to be crazy as we're trying to get into cooler temperatures. We will see. We have more snapdragons here. This one still holding on with one last little flower. More Rudbeckia. As I was saying, it's kind of on its way out. Really not looking too great at this point. We have some echinacea that's looking pretty good though. Marigolds also trying to fizzle out on me. Some cosmos. I think I waited too late to get them transplanted because they really kind of struggled the entire time. They were in their seed starting trays for far too long, but that's a lesson learned for next year. More celosia. I think this is like Sunday wine something, maybe. I accidentally tore the leaf. Good job. But you can see the little flower spike that it is starting to form there. And then we have some milkweed, not blooming. I think I really need to start these earlier next year in order to have summer blooms on these. They do require cold stratification, so like I sow them into seed starting trays and then I put those trays in the refrigerator and I let them sit for like 4 weeks and then pull them out. But I think I need to do that at an earlier point than I usually do. So usually I do that in January, so maybe I need to do that in December. We'll see. I'll sit down and figure all that out. We have another celosia here. This one is blooming much better. So you can see all the little flower spikes. Looks really cool, and it feels kind of cool. More beans, more milkweed, salvia of course, Persian carpet, zinnia, rudbeckia. This one especially is fizzling out. This is a purple variety of gomphrena, and it is much smaller, much more compact. I like this one better. More hollyhocks back there, marigolds, gaillardia. This is a different variety of milkweed. There's one of the fat bees I was talking about. And then we have a celosia here. This is another dragon's breath. The gaillardia patch. Every time I walk through here, it's even more and more wild. All right, but let's talk about the ginger. So I have two fabric grow bags with ginger. Both of them are doing really amazing. This one is like really lush and full of greenery, which I hope means that the rhizomes are doing really well too. You can kind of see there, right here, some rhizome growth. So that's pretty exciting. It's not ready to harvest yet. It'll actually have to live in the garage for a little while before it is ready to harvest. So that will be interesting. We'll see how that works out, but very excited about this. And it smells like ginger. Here's the other one. Not quite as lush as, okay, so it's not quite as lush as the one up against the house, but it does look pretty good, and it is still shooting off more like little sprouts. So really cool. I haven't dug down to see like what the rhizomes look like or anything. I'm just letting it do its thing. So this one will also have a shared custody situation with the garage and the patio pending weather. I think it takes about 10 months for ginger to reach maturity. It did not germinate until May, which means March. So it'll be really interesting to move this back and forth between the garage and the patio until it's time to harvest, unless I break down and just harvest it early, which is also a possibility. We'll see if I get impatient or if I get tired of moving things around. All right, the green stalk that houses the peppers, it is still not my favorite thing. I have fertilized, I've added soil, I've maintained watering, and it is just not as happy as it was last year in terms of pepper production. Now there are some other things in here that are doing relatively okay. This one marigold plant has been absolutely bananas all season. The celosia that just moved in here a few weeks ago is doing pretty well. The basil is starting to be happy here. For whatever reason, the peppers just didn't like this location this year, with the exception of this insane Tabasco pepper plant. I harvested the first Tabasco peppers yesterday. I think I harvested 6, and you can see there's like 6 million more. There's so many, and I like that they point up. That's really cool. So yeah, so what I think I'm going to do around September 1st, so Monday, I think that's when I'm starting all my lettuce that's going to go in that green stalk. So I think I'm also going to start some bok choy varieties, and with the intention of transplanting them into here. Now I don't want to fill the whole thing with bok choy, just a few, because we like stir-fried bok choy and stuff. So maybe like 1/3 of this will be bok choy. Down there I have Swiss chard planted. So I'll have some leafy green stuff happening in here in the winter, but it's not going to be full unless I run out of room out there for those. Over here, the strawberries, I'm still just trying to be diligent with pruning off dead leaves and depositing the offshoots into empty pockets. I deposited some a couple of days ago. That one looks like it took root. That one has not taken root yet, but I'll get that put down in there. Still just trying to ensure that there's strawberries in every pocket. Now that the temperatures are cooling down, I'm hoping that it is a little bit easier to keep these guys green, because I cut off a lot of dead stuff this season while it was really hot. Basil tree. No, okay, so we have lime tree and then we have basil. I am going to remove all of this basil. There's no reason for me to keep it when I have all of that out there everywhere. So all of this is going to come down, give this tree all of its nutrients back. I think bees are trying to starve this tree a little bit because there's just so many basil plants in here. Most of these were volunteers from seeds that fell off of basil that was growing in there last year. So yeah, this just needs to go so that the lime tree can just hang out by itself for a little while and get, you know, nice and healthy. I mean, it looks pretty good, but I want it to continue to grow and be super healthy. Right, over here in the herb green stalk, I'm not going to do anything as far as like fall sowing for any type of herbs or anything. I did transplant one last Tulsi basil plant in here because the 5 other ones that I have throughout the yard aren't enough. But otherwise, I'm just going to wait until my spring planting season kicks off for like new plants, like more chamomile and whatever other stuff I have inside. Unless there's something that says very specifically that it needs to overwinter outside, I think I can just cold stratify a lot of stuff in the fridge inside and then transplant it out after I put it on the heat mat to germinate. But you can see the marshmallow did not like the hot temperatures that were kind of hanging out for a few weeks. This one did okay, but it had a little bit more shade, but even it looks kind of pathetic. The other stuff looks like it's doing pretty well though. Hyssop, tarragon, rue, all those look pretty good. Thyme, of course, that's my apocalypse plant. Mint is bouncing back, also my apocalypse plant. I almost killed it, but there's so much healthy new growth in here now, so I think it's gonna be fine. All right, over here in the seedling station, there's so much happening. So this was the first round of seeds that got started on August the 6th. It is all brassicas. Some did not germinate, as you can see. So then on the second round, I went ahead and sowed them a little bit thicker, which we'll get to in just a second. But there are some that are doing really well, and this is what's going to be transplanted into that raised bed that's by the house. It has all the radishes and stuff planted in it. So there's at least some food happening here. This is the most recent round of succession sowings. These were sown on Wednesday, and then it stormed and disturbed a lot of the little baby seeds. So I don't know if you can see, like right here, there's where one sprouted, but this one got really disturbed. We'll see what happens with these. I may have to redo them and just do a later transplant. Hopefully these pull through. You know, usually the ones that are exposed to the most weather conditions tend to be the toughest. So that's what I'm hoping with these. There is one variety in here that is not a succession sown variety. I found these seeds with like some Girl Scout supplies that I forgot that I had, and these are feathered frills kale. So my idea for these, a couple will go into that pepper green stalk, and then the rest will kind of be used as like winter I don't want to say flowers, but they'll go into the flower beds in the front and the back, just to give some like winter color and variety to those spaces that typically don't have anything growing in them. So we have the first sowing and the third sowing, and then here is the second sowing from here. And then this was all like leafy greens. So we have, Brussels sprouts here. And then we have collard greens. The kale didn't germinate that well here, so I may replant, especially that the blue curled scotch. Then we have spinach, also might resow, and then a couple of broccolis, green magic. These over here germinated pretty well. These cabbages, meh. I think what happened is when I sowed all these, it was in the middle of like an intensely hot period. And I think because this is like a black tray, the soil probably got a little bit warm for some of the stuff to germinate. So I actually need to move it to the white trays anyway, because I need these black trays for something else that I'll talk about in a second. And then I'll just drop more seeds in these and then just make note that I had to resow. And hopefully with the cooler temperatures and the white tray, I'll get something out of these. Now, the reason why I need the black trays, I am going to be starting some viola seeds for the flower beds for cool season flowers. I'll also tuck them into the garden, you know, the vegetable garden, if I can find room anywhere. They require complete darkness to germinate. So my idea is to plant them in these, you know, fill these up with the seeds in a black tray, flip another full black tray over onto the top of it, and then just tape around it to seal it completely closed. Leave it that way for 10 to 14 days inside, not outside. It'll get way too hot outside, but inside the house. Leave it that way for 10 to 14 days. Peel the tape off, remove the top tray, and see if there's germination, if that experiment worked. If not, I may have to revisit the drawing board, but that is my idea. We'll see if it works. It's all an experiment. I will also be starting some some snapdragon seeds and some calendula seeds for more cool season color and such. So stay tuned for all that, I guess. But that is a look at the garden the very last Friday in August. I think while I'm hesitant to say so, because it could very much be a false fall, I do feel like cooler temperatures are on the horizon. Like I said, it's 20 degrees cooler right now than it was the same time last Friday. So if it's a fluke, I'll take the reprieve from the heat at any rate. But really happy with what the garden is looking like, and I'm really excited for what it's going to be. But that's all I have for you for this week's weekly update. If you liked today's video and you'd like to continue to see how the garden grows and changes from week to week, please like, subscribe, comment, do all those different YouTube things. Otherwise, until next time, go find a way to get those garden manicures. Bye!